Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and today in Charlotte is kind of a dark, rainy day. We've got the day off because we're ahead of the Easter holiday. So my kids are home, my wife is home. We're all just kind of hanging out today, and I thought this would finally be a good day for me to do an updated game room tour. And so, really, what I'll say is that this is kind of a movie slash game room slash home office tour. And to give you a little bit of context, I did record a game room tour video maybe 2 years ago. I'll link that here as part of sort of the timestamp of the video. Things have changed a lot since then. My wife and I both have gotten jobs working from home mostly. I do still teach English at a couple of colleges here in the Charlotte area. So I'm out of the house, kind of every day here and there. But a lot of the work that I do for my main profession, working in the admissions world, is from home. So I'm working from my home office here. So because my wife is working from home, I used to have an office downstairs, but I gave that to her so she could have that space. And I had to sort of repurpose what was previously just a game and movie room. So it's really kind of making the best of a small space. And that's the reason that I do these videos sometimes when I'm doing these tours. And I think this is only the second time I've done a room tour like this. Is just to sort of demonstrate that you can, in fact, make really good use of a small space if you're wise in how you sort of plan things out. So what I'm going to do is just sort of walk you around, kind of show you how things have changed as my cat Rocket sort of walks into the frame here. Show you how things have evolved a little bit over time. And if you go back and watch the other video, it'll be very obvious. And you've probably noticed in some of my videos how the background has changed. On this side of my shoulder, I've got my degrees and my credentials up here because this has to be a space that kind of does double duty when I'm on work calls. So I have to have that professionalism maintained when I'm using this space. But I'll just sort of show you how I've maximized this. And again, I hope that this inspires people, right? I hope you're able to find a space in your house, your apartment, wherever it is that you live, that you can curate and sort of make your own. I feel very fortunate that I have a house where I have a room like this to myself. Some people don't have that at all. And I'm happy to be able to sort of make this my space to make it what I want it to be. But anyway, let's take a look around. I'll try to keep it relatively brief and just sort of highlight what I've done in this room and see what you think about it. So as you're watching it, leave some comments down below. And as always, I very much appreciate everybody's viewership. Okay, everybody, so this is the television I have in this room. So previously, I had a 75-inch Hisense TV with HDR, Dolby Vision, a great TV. I ended up moving that downstairs. This is a 51-inch TV, I believe. It just fits a lot better in the space. And so the whole situation basically is, as I mentioned earlier, I had to sort of make this a livable space for home office purposes in addition to playing some games, watching movies, that sort of thing. And as my kids have gotten older, I've got a 12-year-old son now and a 9-year-old, they really have gotten more use out of the larger TV. So I put that downstairs in our playroom, and they've been using that a lot more. Additionally, I had my Series X and my PS5 in this space, but they have wanted to play that more. And so because of that, I ended up hooking that up downstairs, hooking those systems up downstairs because they're just getting more use out of it right now than I am. There are a lot of games that I'm playing currently on those systems, such as the Dead Space remake, which is amazing. I'm maybe, I don't know, 70% done with it. I'm probably going to do a review of that when I'm finished. I'm not quite at that point yet. But anyway, what I have hooked up down here is my Xbox Series S, or up here, I should say. I'm upstairs. This is my Xbox Series S. Great console. I use it all the time. It's actually kind of my go-to thing for YouTube TV. And if I decide to stream a movie, I use this for it. You can see what I've been using it for a lot lately. I do play Halo Infinite on here a good bit as well as some other titles that I really enjoy. But got my Series S here. I've got my Dreamcast here. I love the Dreamcast. I think it's personally, it's my favorite console ever made. I think it was underrated. It obviously had a lot of issues when it came to piracy. They did not protect their disc well. But I've been trying to build my Dreamcast collection back up. I actually had one of these when I was in high school. It's the first console I ever bought with my own money. Really missed it. I picked one up at a used video game store near our house here in the Charlotte area. I started building up my collection a little bit with that. I don't have very many games at this point, but love the Dreamcast. My kids have really liked it a lot too. They've enjoyed Soul Calibur, and we played some Marvel vs. Capcom on that. So great system. One of my favorite systems also is the Wii U. Flopped. One of the worst selling Nintendo consoles ever made. Maybe the Virtual Boy is the only one that's been worse, really, when you kind of put it in perspective. But I love it. My original Wii U is on the bottom of this sort of double stack I've got here. I got another one from a friend who was getting rid of a Wii U he had. He didn't want it, so I picked it up along with some games. But love the Wii U. I actually still play it, believe it or not. There are a couple of games on there that I revisit pretty frequently. My son, my youngest, is playing Wind Waker HD on here now. Awesome game. One of my favorite Zelda games of all time. I wish they would release it on Switch, actually, and I would play it a little bit more on that. But love the Wii U, and I'm actually, hopefully, working toward getting a full Wii U collection. I haven't done a whole lot with that lately. I've got just about all the A titles at this point, except for Axiom Verge, which is a really pricey game because it was a limited run production. But I'll show you my Wii U collection that's very slowly growing at this point here in just a minute. You can see my Switch. I have a cover on it, a protector to keep from scratching because it is an original dock. I have the Switch OLED model. The dock for that is set up downstairs, but the nice thing about that is you can use it in either dock. And so I love my Switch OLED. I play that a good bit as well. So panning up, this is my 4K Blu-ray player. This is, I will say, an okay Blu-ray player. It's moderately priced, which is one of the reasons I picked it up, and it had good reviews. It puts out a fantastic picture, as you would imagine any 4K Blu-ray player would. It's pretty reliable for the most part. There have been a couple of times, though, I've noticed that it will just freeze up on a disc, and I have to eject the disc, and I look at it, and there are no visible, issues with it, smudges or anything that I can see. I wipe it down, put it back in, and it keeps going. A little bit weird. I think I'm actually going to upgrade this Blu-ray player at some point. I just haven't done that yet. Haven't wanted to sort of allocate the funding to do it. Could totally pick one up whenever, but this one has been sufficient for now. Still works relatively well. Haven't been super pleased with it in terms of just those kind of hang-up issues, but overall for the money, it's been a good 4K Blu-ray player. And actually, I use my Xbox Series X downstairs a good bit for 4K Blu-rays also. Maybe not the best standalone 4K Blu-ray player, but it does the job well and doesn't have nearly the hang-up issues that this one does. So eventually, I do think I'll replace this. I have this switcher here, this HDMI switcher, which has been hugely helpful with a couple of different systems that I've hooked up, and I think I've about maxed out what I can do with this, obviously. And if you're a cable management person, seeing this is going to make you cringe, but it's as well managed as I can get it for the moment. And that's kind of what I've got in terms of my setup right now with my games. I do have the boxes for my PS5 and Series X here. Shout out also to the now defunct Google Stadia. I had the Founders Edition of that. Hated it when it went away, when Google canceled it, as I knew they probably eventually would, because they've got a track record of that. It's a real shame, too, because it did streaming gaming better than any other service in my mind. It was amazing, but it died eventually, and here we are with that. So anyway, just a little bit about that space. I am a huge Funko Pop collector. I love Funko Pops. Have way too many of them. On display here are mostly my Star Wars Funko Pops, but you can also see I have not updated this calendar in quite a while, but I like to have a physical calendar in the room also because I use this as a workspace and it helps me organize my day, what I'm working on with different projects, that sort of thing. It was last updated in February, so I need to get back on that, obviously. But anyway, focusing in a little bit more on my Funko Pops. So I don't think these are all of my Star Wars ones. In fact, I know it's not. There's a few that are spread out around the room, but some of my favorite ones are here. Han Solo and Carbonite. I absolutely love this Funko Pop. One of the coolest ones I've got, it was part of a loot box collection, I believe, is when I got that one. A Star Wars collection that I love. I love the Vader lighting one. I know the lighting's here is not great, and if I turn on the light on my camera, it's going to have too much of a glare, but you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like just by kind of glancing at it here. But this is also where I keep my Wii U gamepad, one of my gamepads. I've got another one that's not hooked up at the moment here, but I've got the Zelda edition, the Wind Waker edition Wii U when it was released. Again, absolutely love the Wii U, still play it pretty regularly. I love this Chewbacca Funko Pop as well from Empire Strikes Back with the oxygen mask. When they walk out of the Millennium Falcon to take care of the Minox, that scene is awesome when they realize that they're inside of a living organism, inside of an asteroid. In that film, one of my favorite films of all time. Absolutely love that Funko Pop. I also have just about all the Die Hard Funkos. I don't think I have them all at this point. You kind of get a sense of some other things I'm involved with, such as painting. There's a picture of my son that I painted there, but I'll see if I can get in just a little bit closer. The lighting is not great here. But at the bottom is my Al Pal Funko Pop going all the way up to my two John McClanes. I think there's one that I'm missing. Maybe it's one of the Gruber ones, the Hans Gruber ones, but I love Die Hard, one of my favorite action movies of all time. I still think the John Wick movies are some of the best action movies, generally speaking, ever made, but Die Hard is really far up there on my list. I really love it as a series. The last movie, the most recent one they made, which has been obviously years ago now, was pretty terrible, but all the other ones, including Live Free or Die Hard, I think are pretty great, and I love them. So this is where I keep all of my Blu-ray discs, so Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. And the way that I've organized this is a little bit atypical. Most people have their Blu-rays and DVDs and that sort of thing in a vertical orientation. I can fit more on these shelves if I have them horizontally, and I just kind of like the way it looks, and so that's what I did. And this is my Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set, which I did a review on I will link that here. It should pop up any moment now in the video. Great collection. Totally worth it, especially if you can catch it on sale. I got it for about 80 bucks if I'm remembering correctly, and that was just a amazing deal for what this is. But I also have some of my steelbooks on display. They Live is one of the more brilliant John Carpenter movies. I mean, Halloween is still my favorite John Carpenter movie and my favorite horror movie of all time. They Live is just masterful commentary on sort of the society that we still live in, even though it was published decades ago, or was released, I should say, decades ago. Still a fantastic movie with a ton of relevant commentary, and it's hilarious, right? Campy and hilarious, absolutely love it. You've got Roddy Piper there in that film. Fifth Element, one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time. And I love this steelbook. I think the design on this steelbook is fantastic. Just the artwork is amazing. And I'm a sucker for a good steelbook. If I find one that I love the artwork on, I'm typically going to pick it up for the most part. If you scroll down, or if I go down here just a little bit more, you can see another one that I really like, the artwork for Predator, one of my favorite sci-fi action movies ever made. Dune, this is not a steelbook. It's a normal 4K Blu-ray, but I love this movie so much and I watch it so regularly that I just keep it out. I usually pop this in my Blu-ray player if I'm grading papers, if I'm doing work around the house. I just think this is a spectacularly made science fiction space opera offering. I've tried reading the book a few different times and just never really could get into the book, but I love Dune. I can't wait for part 2. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Denis, gosh, I can never pronounce his last name. Villeneuve, I believe it is. Fantastic director. I think he's the new king of science fiction. Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite movies also, but Dune is just fantastic. This might be my favorite design that I own for a steelbook. The Halloween Kills steelbook. Halloween Kills in and of itself, I like. It's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's great. I think Halloween 2018 is a much better movie. Don't get me started on Halloween Ends. I have very strong opinions about that one, especially kind of post having seen it. Having said that, I probably still will buy it at some point just because I want to have the completed David Gordon Green Halloween collection. But I absolutely love the art on this steelbook. I just think it looks so amazingly done. The red, and then on the back you've got Michael standing under the streetlight for that opening kind of retro scene that we get some flashbacks to later in the movie. But I love it. I think it's an amazing movie, or I should say a good movie with an amazing steelbook. The design for it is just awesome. Then you've got some of my other Blu-rays here, but also you can see in the back that DVD of The Matrix. That is the first DVD I ever bought. I bought that DVD, gosh, it must have been 1999 or 2000. The first DVD I ever bought, I was going off to college. My parents got me a laptop with a DVD player. Didn't own one up until that point, and I was like, I gotta have a DVD of some kind, and I bought The Matrix, which is one of my favorite science fiction films ever made. And so I always keep that on display just as a reminder of this is where it started with the DVDs. That was one of the first ones, and I'll actually show you in a minute my first piece of physical media ever, which I got when I was in kindergarten. So that'll date me just a little bit, but you'll see what that is. Some more Funko Pops down here. I've got Agent Smith from The Matrix, one of my favorite Funkos included there, and I don't remember which one I've got behind that. Oh, I've got Teen Wolf, Scott Howard. Awesome movie. I love Teen Wolf. Great comedy. So I mentioned earlier that I love painting. Here's a painting that I did one day during COVID. Not a lot going on. Got out my canvas, got out my brushes, and did a Miller-Rom painting from Temple of Doom. I tried to do it in kind of a rushed, abstract sort of way. You know, I don't 100% love the way it turned out, but I still like it enough to put it up on the wall and just have it on display, because it takes a long time to put together a painting. If you're a painter, you know what I'm talking about. You're proud of your work, you put it up there, and this is a self-portrait I did during COVID, whenever things were sort of in the thick of that. It was on July 4th, thus the red, white, and blue scheme that I went with, and just sort of the face mask and all of that, just to kind of, you know, keep that as sort of a memory of a crazy time in history that I hope one day my children will look back on, maybe my grandchildren, if that comes to pass at some point, but just to kind of document that crazy time that we went through as a society. But then I've got a couple of pictures, and these I think were featured in my other game room tour video that I did, that I've collected over time. So this is one from Aliens, and it's got LV-426, Hadley's Hope, and you can see the Building Better Worlds logo branding there, along with the ship, the Slacko, I think it is, sort of up in the background there. Pretty awesome. You can also see the Space Jockey ship in that as well. Then also my Jurassic Park mosquito and amber print, which I love. I love these kind of minimalistic prints. I think they're super cool. And so that's one that I've kept and had on display for a while. I mentioned that I'm an English teacher. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Allan Poe. I think he's one of the best short story writers and poets to have ever graced the world. And so I wanted to do a picture of him to commemorate that. When I was a full-time instructor, I had this hanging in my office. When I stepped away from that to pursue other things, of course, I took it with me, put it on display here, and it's one of my favorite paintings that I've done just because I feel like I really enjoy where I kind of ended up with the color scheme. Kind of a reference to the telltale heart there with the eye, sort of the dead eye that's referenced in that short story and the character of the old man there. Then one of my Halo prints that I've got. Again, Halo is one of my favorite games of all time. Still play it pretty regularly. A lot of people trash Infinite and the multiplayer, but I still think it's awesome overall. So this next shelf is really filled with some of my pops, or most of my pops. I've actually got some on another shelf, which I'll show you here in a minute, but you can see What About Bob, Predator, John Wick, just a lot of different offerings there, along with some mini Funkos that I got from a loot crate. Got my loose Jabba the Hutt with Princess Leia from Return of the Jedi. I've got the full Zoolander collection, I believe. Hilarious movie. Zoolander 2, not as good, but still funny in a lot of ways. But I've got the 2 variations of Mugatu here, which are great. One in which he's carrying his little dog, and then, of course, the merman, Zoolander. 2 of the ones from the movie Big. Awesome movie from my childhood that I really like a lot. And then if I go down here just a little bit, and actually I'm going to step back, you can see this Lego Saturn V rocket. This was an awesome build that me and my son did during COVID. I've actually done a number of Lego builds. Some of them have not survived over the years. When my kids have come up here to play, they've knocked some of them over accidentally and they collapse, and that just happens. That's kind of one of the hazards of having children sometimes, but this one has made it through the years. I kind of keep it out of the way just to try and keep it as protected as I can. The cat's gotten neared a couple of times. It survived a couple of battings from the cat, but it persists, and I love it. This is one of my favorite Lego collections, or Lego assemblies and builds that I've done. Got some more Funkos over here. Ghostbusters, Alien, Groundhog Day, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then some of my loose Star Wars figures, including some down here. I've got a number of Hannibal Lecter Funko Pops, which again, I know the lighting's not great here, and I apologize for that, but you can see my Jurassic Park double box with Nedry and the Dilophosaurus, some of my Ready Player One Funkos, more Funkos down there, my K2SO, and then a buddy of mine, a colleague, gave me this Mario Sunshine packaging with Mario and Yoshi that he just didn't want anymore, which I thought was really cool. Offered to give it to me. I've yet to figure out exactly where I want to display it, but I do have it in this room. Now on this other wall, you can see another set of paintings I've done. I did a full Indiana Jones wood panel painting set. Obviously, with the Dial of Destiny coming out very soon, I'm going to have to do another one of these. I might do a full-size canvas one of the dial itself, which I think is the Anathecura mechanism, if I'm remembering correctly. But basically, this was tough to put together. So it's 4 separate panels that I then screwed together 2 at a time and hung up on top of one another on the wall. But I really am happy with the way that turned out. Just honoring my favorite film franchise, probably, of all time. Well, I don't know if that's true. So Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie of all time. I love all the Indiana Jones movies. Yes, including Crystal Skull. I still love it. Star Wars is probably my favorite film franchise of all time. But in terms of singular movies, Raiders and Last Crusade are very far up there. Here's a Star Trek painting I did where I just sort of had fun with the idea of what if there were a black hole and the Enterprise were near it? What would that look like? Maybe even have the crystalline entity from Next Generation included there as well. So just something that I did years ago that I decided to eventually hang up. There's an Empire Strikes Back print that my wife got me one Christmas that I've included here as well. It's a little bit hidden at this point, but it's a really cool print. I like it a lot. Here are all my Seinfeld Funkos. I am of the humble opinion that Seinfeld is the best sitcom ever made. Still watch it regularly. Love that these are on Netflix now, but I love this holistic George Costanza Funko. I think it's hilarious. It's a really good episode of Seinfeld. And then I've got all the DVDs that I own. I am going to get the other ones that I have not yet picked up. For whatever reason, I just haven't gotten to seasons 6, 7, and 8, but I am going to pick those up. I wish they would release it on Blu-ray, but I'm happy to have the DVDs at this juncture. Then I've got a couple of my Dr. Squatch soap sets that I haven't gotten to yet. They just smell awesome, kind of act as air fresheners a little bit. Actually, I did open the Spartan Scrub one here. I did a review
on Dr. Squatch not long ago. I'll also link that as part of the video as a timestamp as well. But haven't gotten to the T-Rex soap quite yet, but I will soon. This Halloween 2018 mask is something that I actually break out on Halloween. I have a mannequin that I decorate, not decorate, that's not the right wording. I dress up like Michael Myers and put it on our front porch. I've got some great doorbell videos of kids being totally freaked out by it because it looks real. Sort of in the shadows, the way he's standing, it looks really good. But I put the mask here when it's not Halloween, and I've got the mannequin out in my garage. And yeah, that's kind of where that comes in. Some additional Funkos here, a couple of my horror ones, Jason Voorhees, and then of course Michael Myers next to the mask. David from the Lost Boys. Hugely underrated vampire movie. And I don't know if underrated is the right word, but I think for today's generation, a lot of them have not seen it. I love Lost Boys. Awesome movie, hilarious, really well done. Joel Schumacher classic. And then I love this cloaked and invisible Predator Funko. Super awesome, super cool. Really love it a lot. I mentioned earlier my Wii U set. This is what it looks like now. I have a number of digital games. At this point, however, the Wii U eShop has closed, so no more of those will be purchased. Everything from here on out is going to be physical, so if I try to get a copy, for example, of Devil's Third, that is going to cost me up the nose unless I find it at a garage sale. So I'm kind of keeping my eye out for that sort of thing. But slowly, I'm building out my Wii U collection. My goal is to one day have every physical Wii U game. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I've been adding them, one or two a month here and there over the past, few months, in addition to some that I've been gifted from friends that just didn't want their collections anymore. So that has grown a whole lot. Got a couple of NES games here. I don't really ever play NES games. It was my first console I had as a kid, but I have a couple of the games here on display. As my Wii U collection grows, those are probably going to move to my storage closet, which is behind me, and I'll kind of glance by that in a minute. Definitely not going to open it up, as it's a hot mess in there. But anyway, I've got my 3DS games here, as well as my Xbox 360 and my Xbox One games, as well as one additional Seinfeld Funko. This is one I got from Amazon that was really damaged when it showed up. I just never got around to returning it, and so I've kept it down here. I want to get another copy of this one because I love the puffy shirt episode. So anyway, that's sort of serving as a bookend to keep my Xbox One games in place. I have one Xbox Series X game at this point, the Quarry. I have not yet started playing that, but I found a good deal on that at a local video game shop, so gonna check that out. And then I've got my Nintendo Switch collection, which has steadily grown over time. I think the Switch maybe is the best Nintendo console ever made, actually. I have a ton of digital Switch games, but these are all of my physical games. I'm not going to go through all of this in a lot of detail. I might make a video at some point where I kind of talk about why I bought these games in particular and kind of do a deep dive into my physical collection at some point, but that's sort of what I've got on display now. You can see my PSP there. I've got a handful of PSP games. There are a few classic games for that I want to get. I got a used PSP a long time ago and have played it here and there. I actually played not too long ago Daxter on that, which I've really liked a lot. I haven't quite finished it yet, but made some progress on that. Then on this shelf, I've got my 3DS, and I actually do still play my 3DS. I play Tetris DS on this, so a DS game on my 3DS. Still love my 3DS. Pop games in there, like Mario 3D Land, that sort of thing, every now and then. I do have one Green Boy game, and if you're not familiar with that, there are companies out there that still make modern Game Boy games that can be played on the original Game Boy Advance, that sort of thing. This one is unopened. I've tried to keep it sealed just for collecting purposes. I might eventually play it, but I haven't gotten there yet. I do have one Game & Watch. I know, again, the lighting is not fantastic there. For Mario, I've kept that one sealed as well. These are a few of my Wii games. Actually, I have a lot of other Wii games in the corner, and I'll show you that here in a minute, as well as some of my Dreamcast games. Then some additional Funkos, and I have two different Wii consoles. This is my original one. I always know which one it is because it's beat all to hell. It's not in great shape. After moving a couple of times, that sort of thing, it's just taken a beating. It still works totally fine. I have another Wii that somebody gave me that they wanted to get rid of, as well as some Funko Pops down here, but there are both of my Wii setups, both of my Wii consoles. So as they say in MTV Cribs, this is where the magic happens. This is where I work from. I, at one point, had two monitors. The second monitor was just way too big for this space. I think I am going to get a smaller monitor at some point, but there's just so much stuff on this desk. It's kind of hard to imagine making that work, but I do kind of want to use that because it would be really helpful for a lot of what I do in terms of grading papers, meeting with clients for my other job that I'm focused on, and just other stuff, and video editing. It would be hugely helpful for that. If you have a MacBook and you work from home, I've got a couple of recommendations. Get one of these stands. Having it at eye level really makes a huge difference. Gosh, I can't remember the brand that this is. Costs about 50 bucks, but it's really sturdy, and oh my gosh, does it make a huge difference. It works so well. It keeps it at a good viewable level. I also recommend getting an Apple brand keyboard and trackpad. You know, a Magic Mouse works great, but I'm more of a laptop guy. The trackpad is just amazing. When you're working in this configuration, it just makes things so much easier to navigate, and I love it. I've got my Razer headset that I use on occasion when playing games. The thing that I like about this is that it's analog, right? You can just plug it into a headset jack. It works without issue. It's got a retractable microphone, which you can kind of see there. Really great headset, actually, for about 50 or 60 bucks. The price is great on it. I think it works super well, and I love it. I use my Yeti for when I'm recording YouTube videos and doing other things. And as much as I love my MacBook, I'm a Mac guy. I think it's a great product. I love everything about the ease of use. The camera in MacBooks is garbage, really. The camera is terrible. They don't record very well. When I'm recording any kind of lengthy video, I use my Logitech 1080p webcam. It's really great. It has a much better, higher resolution. Apple, I don't know what is going on with your cameras, but you've got to upgrade the ones in the MacBooks. And this is a relatively new MacBook, so they've got to, at some point, make that better. I do have a CRT TV. On occasion, my children will want to play original SNES games. Sometimes we'll hook up the Dreamcast to this, potentially, but it's really cool to have this. And the thing that I like about it, too, I don't use it super often, but sometimes I do if I'm doing some work and I'm kind of sitting at the desk for a while. It has a DVD player built in, so you can open up the DVD player, pop in a DVD, kind of get that nostalgic old school look with a movie, which is kind of fun to do sometimes. Don't do it a ton, but sometimes I do that. And actually, I didn't note it over there when I was looking at my Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays, but I have a binder full of DVDs from over the years and a couple of different Blu-rays and that sort of thing. So I just pop those in every once in a while and go from there and enjoy that. I also added a small, well, not small, but a twin bed to this office, a guest bed. This has been really helpful. Sometimes if we have somebody who, you know, is visiting or needs to crash in here, it has worked out to have this space. Sometimes if I'm in here watching TV or doing work, I'll sort of doze on this. It's just a really nice thing to have as a backup bed. I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm an East Carolina alumnus. Go Pirates, love ECU. In fact, they're playing baseball this afternoon, so I'm going to wrap up this video soon so I can watch that and sort of dig into the game, playing UCF. Hopefully we get the sweep on them this weekend. I also have a couple of my other paintings hung up on the wall here. So I did a Phil Connors Groundhog Day painting, which I really had a lot of fun doing during COVID. Have that one hung up here. Got my pirate because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an EC pirate. One of my favorite paintings that I did years ago, Alien Gothic. So a play on American Gothic, but obviously with a xenomorph, and then one of the Predators from the Predator franchise. Just kind of a comedic take on American Gothic that I enjoyed doing. A picture that my buddy Michael snapped in Wilmington, North Carolina of stars, and I got a print made of that. Really love it a lot. This is a painting I did of Eugene Goodman when what was going on January 6th, I guess it was, after the most recent election came out. You know, look, I don't really get into politics on my channel ever, but what Eugene Goodman did in stopping and helping curb what was going on at the Capitol was amazing. He's a hero. I wanted to document that, made a painting of it. And I love it. It just turned out really well. And so that was one painting that I did also. In this corner of the room, I've got my Star Wars Celebration 6 Scoundrels print, which is one of my favorite things that I've got in my collection. So half Han Solo, half Indiana Jones, limited edition. I love this. I picked it up at Star Wars Celebration. I look at it every day. I think it's a great piece of pop culture art. I have my Liberty Prime from Fallout 4. Great statue that I got from the now closed down Think Geek. This is a really nice piece. It was, I remember it was pretty pricey when I got it, and I actually did an unboxing video of that. And if I can find that and locate that, I'll timestamp that, which of course I can find it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll timestamp it in the video so you can see that as well if you haven't checked it out. Huge Charlotte Hornets fan. Not great this season. They've really struggled a lot, but I'm a Hornets fan nonetheless. I have been my whole life, so hopefully they're going to get it turned around. Photograph from when me and two of my roommates and friends from ECU, Brandon and Drew, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, went out to visit the Grand Canyon. We went to Horseshoe Bend, Zion, Monument Valley, a lot of places. Really great trip. Just a great memory from that. Some more of my Funko Pops. Pictures of my kids, of course. You got to have those. More Funko Pops. And this has kind of become a little bit of a junk shelf, but hidden behind that is something my wife got for me one year, and that's Harrison Ford's autograph from an autograph store. Really cool. I need to find a way to better display that. I actually need to get it sort of associated with that Scoundrels print in some way. But just some additional Funko Pops and things down here, some of my Wii controllers. Also, my Back to the Future 2 hoverboard, which was gifted to me by a friend. Jennifer, if you're watching this, I think you gave that to me, if I'm remembering correctly. I love that. Still keep it on display. Then, of course, down here, I've got some of my additional Wii controllers and some more Hornet stuff. But also, my buddy Darren gifted me this mini Pac-Man game, which is from 1981 or 2, I believe. Still works without issue. It's awesome. Love having it. Great addition to the collection. In this corner are the remainder of my Wii titles, and there's going to be a cord that gets in the way of the camera here in just a second. I've got my fan hooked up over here, but all of my Wii titles are here, along with some additional controllers and that sort of thing. So, do love the Wii. You know, I know a lot of people didn't love it because of the motion controls. I still think it's a great system, and my kids especially still play it a good bit. All right, last shelf in my office, and I do want to highlight this lamp that I've got. I got this lamp a while ago. It's from a company called Govee, I think is how you pronounce it. You can shift colors on it. It is super cool. When I'm watching a movie or something, this helps with the lighting. Instead of turning all the lights out, if you want to have a little bit of ambient light, this is a really cool thing. It's got a magnetic holder for the remote. Super awesome. Got two of my Jaws Funkos here, as well as a mock-up of Daddy Ficklin, where the pirates play, of course. I mentioned this earlier, but this is the first piece of physical media that I ever owned. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, I got this for a birthday present when I was in kindergarten. Lost the case a long time ago, have not popped this into a VCR in decades, but watched it till the tape warped, basically. E.T. is one of my favorite movies of all time. Huge Spielberg fan, of course. But I've got that on display. That's where my physical media habit began, so thanks, Mom and Dad, for that. Some more Funkos here, one of my ECU helmets. Some additional Funkos down there, but you can see this shelf has kind of become a space where I include some stuff work related as well down here. So anyway, I'll kind of take a step back, pan around the room, and you can sort of see in all of its glory holistically what this space looks like. Again, I feel like I've done a good job kind of curating this, you know, using a smaller space to the best of my ability, as best I can. I love it. There are some things I am going to change in here. I do want to add a couple of sort of mini shelves for my Funko Pops to try and, again, sort of maximize that space as best I can. High on Life, yeah, that's a great game. I haven't finished it yet, if you've played that at all. Really cool game. But yeah, and you can see my binder with Blu-rays and DVDs. But anyway, that is my space, and I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat abbreviated, maybe a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, tour of my game room.
All right, everybody, that's my tour of my movie / game room / office. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and let me know what your room is like. If you've got a link to a video where you have recorded what your space looks like, I'd love to check it out. Or if you just want to describe it, that'd be awesome too. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll check back in soon.